So you want to be a media buyer. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know how exciting and fun and rewarding and honestly how well the job pays. But you haven't actually gotten your first client or your first job yet. So what should you do? How can you become a media buyer? Well, let's break this down. And you'll see here everybody from Dara Denny to Ben Heath and Jordan Welsh of how exciting it is on camera. But let's get behind the scenes to show you what the day-to-day actually looks like. I'm Charlie, welcome back to Disruptor School, where we do things a little bit differently. We're gonna focus on demystifying Facebook ads so that you can see more success and less stress, which is what you deserve. So what the heck is a media buyer? Well, there's really three things you need to know. Your job is to spend somebody's money to deliver a business result. Now, this might look like driving sales and trying to produce a profit, like e-commerce, or getting a whole bunch of leads so that a salesperson can get a whole bunch of new clients. Ultimately, remember that there are real people at the end of those dollars and real world business impact from the work that you do. The second thing you should be focusing on is what platform do you want to actually buy media on? And I've bought media to the extent of tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on basically every platform out there. And really it comes down to two schools of thought. We have our OCPM platforms like Facebook and TikTok, and to a greater extent, more and more these days, YouTube. We're ultimately trying to provide content that people enjoy in a way that produces a business result. The other side of the equation is what we call PPC. This is really Amazon and Google. This is knowing what words people type into a search bar so that when they're looking for the product, when they made up their mind that they're ready to buy, you're the thing that comes up. So pick a platform that you can specialize in and you'll make a lot more money. The third thing you should be keeping in mind is to always expand your skills. And what I mean by this isn't get good at everything, because nobody cares if you're good at everything, but try new things all the time. One of the things that I did very early on that helped me be exceptional, and this is like 2012, 2013, was I hit a new button on every campaign. Every time I launched an ad, I tried something new, which ultimately meant that I had more failures and more wins than most people had attempts. And the best people in the world have failed more often than most people have tried. And that is something to be proud of, not afraid of. So that being said, let's get into the skills and knowledge required to really enjoy and be good at this job. When we're trying to evaluate how to have fun and be successful at this, understand whether you are a creative or a data person. And you can be a creative or a data person in Google or Amazon, or my favorite, of course, Facebook ads. There's a place for both. What gives people the most joy and success is picking a path that feels most home to them. The best in the world excel at one thing and then work with a team that's good at everything else. Personally, I'm an analysis guy. The next thing to know is how important it is to understand that what you're doing is ultimately marketing. So you have to know some consumer psychology and some business fundamentals. Like, why is a discount off more important than $1 off? Why does buy more, save more work better than a lower price offer? What makes people want to buy a second time, and why do people never buy from you again? Start to understand these things and understand why people like some of your content and why certain people click on your ads more than others. And you'll begin to truly be more than just somebody that hits buttons for a paycheck. And like any trade, any skill, any passion, find other people who are more successful and more passionate than you are that you can emulate. So I was just watching this video with Alex Hormozi, and he was at a conference and somebody asked him, tell me about your friends. And he said, all my friends make $200, $300, $400, $500 million. Like, I can't even go buy the companies I want to. The point is, you always make yourself a small fish in a big pond, because as soon as you become the great white shark in the backyard pool, you have nowhere else to go. And that is terrible for your growth and honestly gets really boring. So let's get into a little bit of the behind the scenes nitty gritty of what being a media buyer actually feels like on a day-to-day basis. Remember, the number one thing is we are spending other people's money. So it becomes really important to understand what's happening because of that money. Every good media buyer should be able to create reports. So understand the finer points of how to synthesize large pieces of data into something that people can understand. Honestly, half of my time is spent around getting people sound bites with really easy to understand information. And if I have 10 to 20 minutes to go over something, I can do it at the drop of a hat. But what makes somebody great is spending the 5 or 10 or 20 minutes to get it down to 30 seconds or less. That is an essential skill. Also, one of the most important parts of our job is understanding the consumer and the behavior and what happens after people click on the ads. Like, ads are only ever getting somebody to go to the website. If you're not looking at the emails and ultimately the search campaigns and the Amazon listings and the web pages and putting yourself in the shoes of the average buyer, then you really don't know anything other than this thing on my screen has this number attached to it. If you can't tell me why, then there's no reason I'm going to pay you versus somebody else. And I'll also tell you this, no good media buyer I've ever met doesn't consistently work on improving their skill set. The honest truth is you are not paid for the volume of work you do. You are paid for the impact your work has. And the folks who sit in there and do the work over and over and over again, well, there's no reason for them to ever get a raise. There's no reason for them to ever get a promotion because they're really good at basically being mindless drones that repeat the task over and over again. And AI can probably do that job in 30 seconds or less if it hasn't already. You should constantly be surrounding yourself with ideas that challenge you and force yourself to be able to articulate the things you learn to other people. The best media buyers I know teach other people how to be successful because the smartest people in the world learn by teaching. And that is some essential part of every media buyer's day. Now, of course, you're going to have to get into your ad accounts. And back in the day, we constantly made adjustments and optimizations. And to be fair, there's a lot of people that still day trade their way to success. But those are the people that really only share their success on the few days they have it and kind of disappear afterwards. What I would love for you to begin to think about, especially as soon as you get under the hood and start to make sense of what's going on, is understanding how to get more work done by working less. Remember, simple scales and complex fails. If the only way you can solve the problem is by making it more complicated, all you've done is created more problems that basically keep you from being held accountable today. And perhaps one of the most essential skills that happens almost every day in the life of a media buyer is testing. Now, sometimes this can be as simple as setting up an A/B test, the tool like IntelliGems, or doing a creative test where you throw a few options into the machine and see what happens. The point is, though, you should always be testing. You should always be saying, I know what's gonna happen here, and I'm gonna run a test to see if I can improve it. If you're not testing, you're not improving, or getting smarter, or being valuable in any way. Remember, there are folks that will just take a paycheck to do a menial job and never move forward. You got into this because that sounds horrible. And to be fair, if that sounds good to you, go get a job in an agency, do reach and frequency campaigns for some tourist board, and you'll just work your way up, and every couple of years you're gonna get a small raise, and you'll look back 10 years later and make half of the money you could have been making in 6 months doing this job. And that's so boring. But look, you're in this space, and there's a little bit of the entrepreneur in you that I hope is driving you to want to invest in your development and your growth, because ultimately, media buyers who are entrepreneurs don't do nearly as well. Because at the end of the day, we're spending somebody's money to get a business result. Now, in this video, we're talking about a bunch of advanced stuff at a very surface level. If you want to know a lot more about it, you can go ahead and join the Facebook Ads MBA program. We got a community of people around the world, and this is just scratching the surface of a ton of extra things to help you scale your Facebook ad account, run your business better, earn more of your time back, and ultimately see more success and less stress. If you want to join the MBA program, there's a link in the description down below to give you some more advice, or you can go ahead and scan this QR code. Bam! So while we're here, I just want to also tell you a few really common mistakes, because I think everybody telling you all the great things in the world is fun, but if they don't tell you where it can all go wrong, then they're not doing you a good service. So let me do that for you. The 3 biggest mistakes I see media buyers making. Number 1, they take credit for the work of the rest of the team. If you don't understand that attribution is kind of nonsense, and that the reason your ad account scales is because of a good business model, if you go in saying, this happened because of me, you're going to be out of a job sooner than later. The second biggest mistake that I see media buyers making all the time, and often the folks who quit this job, this is the mistake they make most often, is they're constantly reacting. They're constantly seeing some number go up and some number go down and making changes because of it. They don't have a plan. And ultimately, this means that they're sitting every day feeling lost because they don't know where they are. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and they don't know the ramifications of their actions. And this feels terrible. The people that sit in this space ultimately never have direction. They never have upward growth, and they usually find some other job to get into. And maybe that makes them happy, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And the third biggest mistake, and to be fair, I think every media buyer I know is guilty, and it's sort of a rite of passage that you kind of go through this process. Hacks don't work. All of the little wins that you see, sure, the person sharing it, it may have worked for them, and it probably worked for the person that they learned it from 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago. There are opportunities for arbitrage when new tools come out, but by the time you heard about it, the opportunity is gone. And I encourage you to do it so that you can ultimately understand, where is that a liability? But if your entire strategy is to hack your way to success, ultimately what you've done is eliminated the possibility of success from ever happening. And to really drill that point home, most great media buyers are mediocre at best. They're far better at getting attention and clients than they are actually servicing those clients. And the vast majority of them say how good they are by pointing to the results of brands that didn't need them to be successful. As a for instance, I made a $17 million mistake one year on Activision's Call of Duty. Still the #1 game in the world. And do you think the person sitting behind the button at Apple that's accidentally spent $50K in the wrong place has anything to do with AirPods being the third most successful technology company in the United States? No. The point is, we influence what's happening, but we're not the reason it happens. Remember, at the end of the day, you are part of a factory line. There are people that make the ads. There are people that run the ads. There are people that make sales. There are people that make the product. There are also people that make the website, and people that run the other ads that you don't ever see, and people that write the emails, and people that make the social media content, and people that do customer service. You are one of many, many people responsible for what happens at the end of the day. And when you focus heavily on running a bunch of hacks and making a bunch of changes, what you're really doing is making everybody else's job more difficult. And when everybody's job is more difficult because of you, two things are gonna happen. One, you're gonna lose your job. And two, that means that company doesn't make nearly as much money. And everybody's far less happy while that's going on. So just remember, you're a part of a team. So treat it like a team player, focused on the greater good and not so much about your vanity or ego or reporting. So we've covered how to be a media buyer here. And if you want to know the deeper points around creative testing and finding your hero offer and what your ad account should look like and all that fun stuff, I made this great playlist here for you. Dive into that, binge it, enjoy it, and if you really value it, maybe subscribe too. But this I built for you so that you can see the success that you deserve. And until next time, I'll see you on the internet. Bye!